Well, it's been too long since Dr. Mary Noel George has been with us to talk about skin safety. She's a dermatologist at DePaul Hospital. I think it's been about 2 years, but the numbers are not good when you look at skin cancer because, Dr. George, about 1 out of 5 people will be diagnosed with skin cancer. I mean, that's 20%.
True. Yeah, very large number. And unfortunately, the rate of melanoma is ever increasing, and then the rate of mortalities because of melanoma are ever increasing as well.
And they increase if you have 5 sunburns. Explain that.
Right. If you have a history of 5 sunburns over your lifetime, your risk is significantly increased for melanoma.
So, folks, there's really no safe tanning, I think is what you're saying.
There is no safe tan because tan is your body's, your skin's way of saying it's being damaged by the sun. And even a tan, not just sunburns, but even a tan significantly increases your risk for the 2 more common forms of skin cancer, which are basal cell carcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma.
Okay, so what's the number 1 skin cancer for those between 25 and 39, our younger listeners?
Melanoma.
And what exactly is melanoma?
Melanoma is when the mole cells, the melanocytes, go bad. So on one end of the spectrum is a normal mole, and then on the bad end of the spectrum is when those mole cells turn cancerous and become a melanoma.
Is this largely the result of suntan?
Primarily.
Yeah.
Over 60% of melanomas are because of sun exposure, the ultraviolet radiation from sun.
How about these tanning beds?
Tanning beds are equally as guilty as they emit ultraviolet light, which causes the tan and sunburns, and that is what causes melanoma.
You put on SPF even when it's after 6 o'clock at night?
I do. If the sun is still up, I still have SPF on.
Is the sun really bright enough to damage my skin at that time?
It is. The sun's rays are less intense at 6 o'clock. They are the most intense between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. But if the sun's up in the sky, you're still getting ultraviolet light from the sun.
What's a safe SPF number?
You should have a minimum of SPF 30.
Mm-hmm.
But, there can be a false sense of security because a lot of sunscreen manufacturers have sunscreens on the market now that are SPF of 100, but just gets into a little silly realm because if you double your amount of SPF protection, your SPF number, you're not doubling your amount of ultraviolet protection.
And that UV protection, you look for that as well on the label?
Right. So you should have 3 things in your sunscreen. One is it should be a minimum SPF of 30. 2 is it should be a broad spectrum, which means it protects against both ultraviolet A and ultraviolet B rays from the sun. And the third thing is it should be very water resistant, so it should stay on after 80 minutes of swimming or sweating.
Do you feel comfortable naming a brand or 2?
Over-the-counter-wise, Olay Complete Defense SPF 30 is a very, very good one. And then some other products like Vanacream sunscreen have a lot of zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, which are the best physical blockers of sunlight.
That's Vana, V-A-N...
I-C-R-E-A-M, Vanacream.
Vanacream. This is Dr. Mary Noel George, dermatologist from DePaul Hospital with us. How much sunscreen does one apply to the skin?
An entire ounce of sunscreen to get the advertised number of SPF on the bottle, which is a lot.
An ounce per what?
For entire body application. Okay. So that's a shot glass. That's a lot of sunscreen to apply.
But that's head to toe.
Head to toe, right.
You also, you wear the long sleeve sun protective garments even while swimming. And you're an avid swimmer. You'll sometimes do 4,000 meters, whatever. But even if it's at 6 o'clock at night, you've got the long sleeves on, which is a little unusual.
I do. It's a rash guard, or some are now called commonly swim shirts. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, they're becoming more and more common and sold in stores by retailers where we all frequent. But it makes it a lot easier to protect your skin from the sun than having to reapply. And even though sunscreens can be water resistant or very water resistant, they do come off after swimming and heavy sweating.
So 2 hours you reapply another ounce?
Yes, absolutely, the entire amount. So a bottle of sunscreen shouldn't last very long because most bottles of sunscreen are only 4 to 6 ounces. So you should be going through it pretty quickly.
That's kind of an expensive habit. However, if you're preventing skin cancer, that's a good thing because skin cancer is not just unsightly, it is deadly.
Yes, it's deadly, and it can be very deforming. Because most skin cancers, obviously, since they're caused by sun exposure, happen in more commonly exposed sun areas, the nose, the ears, the face, forehead.
But what about our listeners who are Mediterranean or they're African American, do they really have to be worried about the sun? Does skin cancer affect them like it does the Norwegians, the Scandinavians, the Irish?
Anyone can get skin cancer. Certainly those with darker pigmented skin tones are more protected against sun exposure, but melanoma can even happen in African Americans and darker pigmented people.
So you see that with African Americans as well?
I do.
Because I'm assuming that African Americans are less likely to buy the SPF.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well,
but even Bob Marley had a melanoma under his toe.
Is that true?
That's true.
Dr. George, what's this ABCD?
ABCDEs are the marker of what we should pay attention to for funny-looking moles. A stands for asymmetry. So if you can put a mirror in the middle of it and it's not the same on both sides, that's a warning sign. B stands for border. So if it's not an even uniform border, so if it's a jagged border, indented, kind of the coast of Maine sort of border, that's a warning sign. C stands for color. So if it has multiple different colors within it, not just one color of brown, but if there's blacks, blues, reds, whites, that's a warning sign. D is diameter, anything over 6 millimeters, which is the size of a pencil eraser. That's an easy one. And then E is evolving. Anything that's changing, you should bring those to the attention of your dermatologist.
Otherwise, how often should you be scanned for these?
Once a year, you should be scanned. So check your skins, check your skin on your birthday.
But aren't you forgetting all the beneficial effects of the sun, like vitamin D?
Your skin definitely helps to make vitamin D, but a very small amount. You can only get there's a very limited amount that your skin can actually manufacture of vitamin D, and that happens over a really brief period of time, just about 10 minutes of midday sun exposure.
That's it?
That's it. And most of us get that going about our normal daily activities, walking the dog, going to get the mail, parking your car, walking to building. Otherwise, you can get vitamin D safely from your diet supplements. Otherwise, you're really increasing your risk of skin cancer.
Well, I think a lot of people out there right now are seeking shade.
Yes.
After listening to you. Okay, Dr. Mary Noel George, thanks for sharing some of these summer skin safety tips with our listeners. Is there a phone number or a website for folks who'd like more information or want to find out how to contact you?
Yes, my phone number for my office is 314-344-0004. And a great resource online for tips about sun safety is the American Academy of Dermatology, the AAD.org. There's lots of sun safety tips on there that are very useful.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again. Welcome back anytime.
Thank you. My pleasure.
She's Dr. Mary Noel George. If I wrote it down correctly, it's 344-0004, area code 314. With us from DePaul Hospital today on KMOX. In a moment, yes, there is a primary election. August primary election.